everyone, welcome to today's episode of Musing Moms. I'm Adelina, the Deputy Editor of Her World. With me today are Liz and Ro, the founders of Discover Early Years, a children enrichment center which focuses on play-based learning experiences. So Liz and Ro, the world is ever-changing with new skills to pick up. So what are the 21st century skills that today's children must have?
I think key skills would be critical thinking, creative thinking, problem solving, and reasoning analysis. On top of that, a lot of communication, collaboration. So these are some of the key skills that you see, the soft skills that you see that really in workplace now that a lot of people need, a lot of people are working on, and so it's very important to start our children young to ensure that by the time when they enter into the workforce in 20 years time or whatever it is, they have mastered these.
Okay, and how young is young when you say you have to start them young?
Well, in the early years term, when we say young, it's usually between the age of 1 to 8 based on research, because this is the years whereby they are curious, okay, and this is where their brain is actually developing at a faster pace rather than when they are more than 8 years old. Correct. Yeah.
Okay. And how does purposeful playing play into this, so to speak? How can children learn these skills through purposeful playing?
Okay, so children naturally, they are very curious, they are always looking out and exploring their surroundings, and also children naturally, they come in with everything that they need as a young learner. So playing, it's important because this will help direct their curiosity into learning opportunities. That's why we say that playing needs to be purposeful, so that you can convert playing into learning opportunities. Or else play is just play if learning doesn't take place.
So how then do you define purposeful play? How is it different from normal play?
Okay, so purposeful play is actually a collaboration between children and adults, all right? Because children, as I said, they come with everything that they need. So they will explore their surroundings with their instincts, with what they are naturally led, with what their interests are. But it takes a skilled adult to put value on their play, to put specific knowledge on their play, and to understand the kind of learning that actually is taking place. So let's say, for example, if you give a child a box, a box is always so endlessly fascinating to a child. They will get in it, they'll push it, they'll play with friends and do all these kind of things. On the surface, it looks like meaningless fun, But to an adult who is insightful, who is able to support that kind of learning, you can see that they're actually exploring their spatial awareness, their physical development, their social skills when they are working with somebody else, and if they can't get into it, it's a problem, so how do they solve it to reach their goals? So purposeful play is really a collaboration between children and adults to put meaning to their play, because children, they may not be aware in terms of the knowledge-wise how they are exploring their surroundings, but they instinctively they know they need to explore to get to know the world and make sense of the world.
Okay.
And how you put sensibility on that will be through a supportive adult.
Okay. So by supportive adult, do you mean teachers, parents, or is it really the role of both?
It is really the role of both, because it's an enabling environment that we have to provide for children at school, at home, and surround them with that kind of setting where they will become confident to explore, and they are also learning at the same time. So that's why we work very closely with parents. We tell them exactly the kind of exploration that they're interested in when children come into our center. We give them a discovery report so that they can continue it at home. And we do have children where when parents follow or work with us, based on the children's interest that they shown in the center, and their development is really in a space of a couple of weeks, and we see their progression because of that collaboration.
Okay, and the teachers have to be trained in a certain system. Is there a certification that they have to go through, a course?
All our teachers are already educators. Yeah, so that is one. But in our methodology, yes, they do have to have a certain sort of training, because I think our method is a little bit different. Yeah, it is a lot more knowing when to step back and knowing when to intervene. And I don't think that comes naturally in an Asian setting.
That's true.
Yeah, because we are always like, oh, you should be doing this, you shouldn't be doing that, and things like that. So for us, we have qualified educators, that's number one. And number two, our in-house training is a lot about empowering our teachers with the kind of awareness to know when to allow the child to play and when to intervene to support. So that tug and pull, it is actually, it takes a lot of awareness on the adult side.
That's right, yeah. Because Liz, you're a mom too.
That's right, yes.
How does your experience as a parent play into the founding of Discover Early Years?
Right, so the whole setup of Discover Early Years really started from me, being a mom, and then I discovered that play is just more than play, right? So obviously I gave birth to Ron, which is my son, in the UK, and I realized that actually in Malaysia there is no other centers that's able to provide a similar kind of setup and environment like they do in the UK, right? So this is where the whole idea came from, that we should really be able to provide this kind of service to enable more families to have access to this kind of education, because otherwise parents will really have to send their kids to international school, which it might cost a bomb to some to some families. So obviously with a young child, we realize that the way that this new generation is growing up is totally different from us, right? So during my time, play is really about playground games, right? Or non-guided or non-assisted kind of play, where we do whatever that we want. And that basically led adults to have a misconception about play means meaningless, right? Okay. So what I discovered through play is that if I'm able to assist my child, while they play, and what in this sense what we are saying is that it is purposeful play, intentional play, right? I realized that play can actually lead to a lot more, a lot more in the sense of communication, right? Interaction, and also building the positive relationship between myself as a parent and my child, right? And at the same time, I'm able to actually understand the interests of my child as well, and try to guide and lead them so that it turns into learning, because as an adult we have to recognize that it is a right of a child to play, right? And how are we able to turn playing into learning? So this is how we're able to do it, and setting the right environment with the right material, so that learning takes place. Right?
And how do you encourage your kids to play purposefully and not just play meaninglessly? Do you have any examples that you've done with your kids?
Right. Yes. Yeah. So we are able to, as adult, right, because we are able to prepare the right materials, right, and also to lead them in that way. So for example, if my child is actually playing with water, try giving them different sizes or different shapes of containers. So while they're scooping up, how you're able to lead them, let's communicate with them about shapes, about capacity and things like that. So this is how we're able to lead them, because we have to recognize that when a child have interest in something, they will have a longer attention span.
That's right, yeah.
Right? And this is where we are trying to guide them on their interest and expand that into learning, into knowledge, as well as 21st century skills. So when we talk about capacity, when we talk about shapes and things like that, and their actions basically leads to problem solving, creative thinking, as well as it can be a lot of other things, even leadership. For example, if they're playing with other kids as well, one might lead another.
So it's not really just bringing your child to the playground and say, here, you have half an hour to play, or putting them in the bathtub with bath toys and say, this is your playtime. You actually guide them through that process.
Correct, that's right, yeah. And to be able to recognize as well, what they're interested in, and try to have conversation with them in in that sense.
Okay.
On that particular interest.
Speaking of conversation, I would think that the choice of words that you use with your child, the tone that you use would be very important as well to encourage them.
Exactly. So what we are trying to develop in a child when they play is obviously communication and language. That is one of the key areas that playing leads to. So when we talk about communication and languages, obviously it is about vocabulary, right? And how we're able to extend that through play. Alright. It's not a case of memorizing, but a case of putting that interest in them, and they will remember when they have interest and when they're actually doing it.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I would think as a parent too, you will have to do a lot of positive encouragement to your child.
Reinforcement.
Yes.
Yeah, correct. Yeah, positive reinforcement. Yes.
Okay.
Correct.
All right.
Yeah.
But Ru, just now you mentioned that there's a balance between letting a child explore on their own, but also making sure that they do achieve certain skills at the end of it. So actually, how do you balance that aspect and also ensure their safety without disrupting their natural curiosity about the world?
So there are certain things that take precedence. So as you said, safety always has to come first. That is part of creating an enabling environment. But also there is also the emotional safety. Besides physical safety, there's also the emotional. They have to feel emotionally safe to explore. So that is the role of an adult. So sometimes we do have very curious fingers around our center. So our teachers are very good at just redirecting their interest into something that they are existingly interested in. So let's say we have our investigation bin, so they are playing with the water and things like that, and then they might go somewhere else to go and get something, maybe because downstairs at our center we do not childproof everything. We do have certain things in like glass jars, let's say. Alright, but those are the times where we have to monitor them. We don't take it away from them in the way that, you're not able to touch the glass jar, but we work with you so that you understand this thing can break and how you can handle it. So if you go downstairs and see our setup, sometimes you can see some really adult tools, like pestle and mortar and things like that. So let's say it's a 2-year-old child who is working with the pestle and mortar. Our teacher will make sure that you use 2 hands. And you have to be heavily guided and supported. So that is the safety aspect. So you can support them in what they are interested in doing, but make sure you break it down in a way that they know how to handle it, because this will enhance their independence also, because you want to teach them how to fish. You don't want to take everything away and just childproof everything and they don't get to experience anything.
Right, because you want them to learn how to apply the skills in their daily life too.
And they need to learn how to assess dangers and know how to adjust themselves according to the danger or according to something that potentially could be dangerous. So this is something that a skill that you need to work with the child to build. So by taking it away, it's not going to help. So you have to communicate and you have to work with them on it. And so under those kind of circumstances, especially when it comes to safety, we do of course enforce more supervision. But if it's under a safe environment and a child is independently exploring, and there's nothing hazardous around and stuff like that, so those are the times where we really step back and observe. All right, so how we observe also, there's an attitude to observe. All right, under the Early Years Foundation framework that we work with, the UK one, it says the guide says to look, listen, note. Okay, but that also you have to be relaxed, open. Okay, because if you're not relaxed and you're not open to what the child is doing, you may impose your own expectations and your own mindset on what they should be doing. Because I can tell you, we prepare all the stations and we imagine the children to use the materials in a certain way. None of them do that. They all have their own ideas. They come with what they want to do. They are making their own things. They are using the materials differently than what we expect them to do. But our teachers don't go like, you shouldn't be doing that. You should use the material this way. All these shapes are for you to build a flower. You cannot build a building. We don't do that. But it's more of like we are observing how they are learning rather than what they are learning. Because there are many different ways to get to an end goal. But every child takes a different pathway. As long as we are all heading towards direction, we just have to recognize the path that they are on and grow alongside them. So that is really the attitude to supporting a child.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that would be not just teacher but parent also.
Yes, exactly. So like how a lot of our adults they have to really adjust the way they approach a child. So we have this parent, especially because we had this really curious boy, and when he first came in, he was really exploring with his full hands. Okay. And then we can tell he was making sense of all the materials with his full hands through touch. And then I was having a conversation with the grandmother, and she was saying that, we take him out for walks and things like that, and he wants to touch all the snails, but it's so dirty, so we stop. So I told them, let him touch, because that's how he's exploring. That's the stage that he is in now.
Okay.
So the grandmother went back, they did touch the snail, they brought a lot of sanitizer and wet wipes, of course. And then so she came back and told us that, this is what we did. And then the next time this boy came, he started using what we call a tripod grip, means using 3 fingers instead, because usually a child, once they are satisfied with the way that they are exploring in this one stage, they will naturally progress to the next one. It's like how when they are ready to walk, it's from when they are crawling.
Okay.
So then this child, in the next 2 weeks when he came, he suddenly started growing, using 3 fingers grip and a little bit of pincer grip. Okay, so when a child is doing this in the progression stage, it kind of means that they're kind of like able to start strengthening on the fine motor skills, and we can start preparing them for writing, things like that. So if we continue to inhibit the way he was exploring in his initial stage, then he might
actually slow down that development.
Take a long, because we have to wait for them to progress. Right? It's like how a child will naturally know when they are ready to walk. Okay. Yeah, so it's like, so that's why we have to see and support, and then see how they are learning and allow them.
Okay.
But while taking away our own, expectation.
Like what we want our child to be,
yes,
what we want them
exactly.
to do.
So that is the balance. So that is the kind of like recalibration. A lot of even our teachers and ourselves, we have to check in on ourselves and okay, so am I stopping the child because it is dangerous, or is it because of my expectation?
Okay.
So
Correct.
Yeah.
That's why we are saying that in play there always have to be a balance between a child initiated learning and the adult initiated learning.
Okay.
Yes.
Because when it is when when you focus more on adult initiated learning, it means that you're actually giving instruction, right, to the kid on what they would do, and that will actually limits their curiosity.
That's true.
Okay, all right, and because the moment you give instruction to them,
Yes.
right, you're actually limiting
You're
their
telling them,
creative
like,
ideas and
correct.
things like that. Yeah.
Correct.
So there has to be a balance between that. That's why, as an adult, how we are supporting our children when when we want them to learn through play is to make sure there is a balance. That's why, like I mentioned earlier, we have to be able to support, understand, and identify the interests of the child, and then support them in that way, towards that direction of their interests.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think being Asians, most parents would still like some kind of
Yes.
assessment of some sort, or some like tangible proof that their kids are learning through
Yeah.
purposeful playing, even though
Correct.
it's playing, but because it's
Correct.
purposeful, it's supposed to teach them skills.
That's right.
Yeah. So is there a framework or assessment to guide the play sessions?
Yes, all right. So, actually, Discover Early Years is the first center in Malaysia that is able to provide, this kind of platform. We are using the platform called Blossoms, where after each and every session, our teachers will actually give a discovery report. We call it the discovery report to parents, to let the parents know what their child has actually learned, and also what they've done in the center. And that way, after every session, our teachers are actually going to they actually update their progress and development, as well as their learning, in the app, in the platform. Correct.
One of the key reasons why we chose the UK Early Years Foundation stage is because although this is a framework that kind of like is talking about early years where it's supposed to be freer play and things like that, it is one of the most visible framework where they are able to break down the key developmental areas of a child during early years into age-appropriate learning goals.
Okay.
So that in itself gives some kind of trackability. So based on the Blossom app that we use, which is an app that over 500 nurseries in the UK uses to track their children according to the foundation stage. you are able to see at each breakdown, at each goals, is the child emerging in this skill? Is the child developing in this skill? So is the child secure in this skill?
Okay.
So this is the kind of tracking in that sense we're able to do when it comes to developmental skills. It's not the subject matter competencies that we usually go mathematics 100 marks, mathematics failure. It's not that kind, but it's more of the developmental skills. So because this framework is able to break it down in age-appropriate goals in 7 key areas of learning for early years children. And that's one of the main reason why we chose this framework, because we understand the need of Asian parents where they want to see something tangible. And for this stage of learning where it's so open-ended, where it's so free, you kind of need a framework that is broad enough yet specific enough.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's why.
Okay. And this framework isn't one that compares a child's development to certain standards that, like for example, if they are 2 years old, they have to be able to do certain skills. Does it do that, or it's more of tracking your own child's individual progression?
So they do have age-appropriate goals into each area. So let's say a child who is let's talk about physical development. A child who is 2 years old, they should be able to do a tripod grip, let's say. Or a child younger than that will be exploring with full hand grip. So all these are stated, so it's, and their particular goal is more about how the child is approaching learning. It's not more about the what. So all these things are as expected, so age appropriateness. So if a child, let's say, needs particular support in personal, emotional, social development, and certain things that we can see is actually a little bit behind their age, so that is where we can create certain materials and create certain things that to support that kind of development. So that is also all in the framework that the UK government has.
And it is also through this app that this is how they're able to communicate with parents on a daily basis, because obviously when parents are able to track the development of their child in this app, they can also help their child at home, because to really let the child develop this kind of skills, and to progress positively and healthily, it is really the work, not just the teachers and the center, but as well as parents, right? So when parents access this app, they're able to track the development of their child. They can also support them at home, right? Like Ro just mentioned, right? Because every child is unique. So when teachers are able to track the development of each individual child, right? We prepare materials based on their needs and how they're able to help them to progress, right? Their interest in that particular area, right? So, but that is also what we're looking at, communicating with parents so that they're able to do that at home as well. Correct.
So you're giving parents the skills to help their children
as well.
Yes. The whole reason why Discover Early Years was set up is because we wanted to empower adults to empower children. That is our mission statement. It's not about you. We want to hoard your child the whole day, and it's only us and things like that. That's also why we set it up as an enrichment format, right? Because we don't run on a school term basis, we run on an hourly basis. Therefore, this sort of education system is more affordable, number one. And also, honestly speaking, as Liz said, right, it's not just the support at the school or during academics that the child really needs. The child really needs this kind of support at home. The right sort of environment at home that allows them to explore in this way, that gives value to their interest, that gives value to their play. So there is no use for us to have your child with us for 12 hours a day and things like that, and then at home it's a completely different story. So that's why we only encourage children to come in 2 hours at a time, and then we give parents the report, we give parents the support, to continue your exploration at home, because that is what we know is more beneficial for the child.
Okay. So you mentioned that the apps is for parents to track their kids' progress. Do you have a technological aspect to the play-based learning system that you have? Do children pick up certain computer skills, or how is your play-based learning different from play-based apps?
Well, we don't really use technology or iPad during the play because we want them to explore materials. And all the materials that we provide are open-ended for them to develop their key skills and things like that. So this software that we have is just really more for parents and things like that. Yeah, there are other technological or mechanical logic that we can build in a child without using the phones or using the videos and things like that. So for example, just understanding how something works.
Okay.
So building this kind of logical thinking skill at this stage will be better for them than to give them a video to watch and things like that. Because children under the age of the earliest children, it's important for them to build all these neural pathways, this brain connectivity, receptor brain connectivities through exploration.
Okay.
Because this is the time where their brain is just developing. After this stage, it is about using the pathway that they have built during this stage. So materials and things that they play with has to be open-ended. So we build this flexible cognitive development for them. And when all the neural pathways are prepared, are open from age 0 to 8, then they are ready for more directed learning.
Okay.
Because sometimes giving them computer skills and things like that, something so young. Number one is too young. They are too young to start on this. Number two, it could limit the development.
Okay, so it's not you're not getting a complete development of the mind. So what you're doing is setting the foundation. So once they have those, they can explore further on certain interests.
Correct, because they will have that logical skills, and then the minute they come in contact with the text or the learning that is more for directed learning, when you go into primary and things like that, their understanding will be a lot better. Their understanding will be a lot more enhanced. Their receptibility and their attitude towards learning. That is the one that is very important, because 0 to 8, you're really building their attitude towards learning. That's why it's so important to follow their interests and respond to the idea before you teach specific knowledge. Because when you teach specific knowledge, number one, that is not interesting to them at that point, you could demotivate them. Okay, so 0 to 8 is the best time to build on their intrinsic motivation to learn, intrinsic motivation to master a skill. So this kind of mastery approach and their relationship with learning is really built during this stage. If they have a good relationship with learning, a good relationship with adapting to changes and mastering different skills, when they take it on to their later life, this is what this is how they will approach moving forward.
All right. And therefore, this is what you mean by the 21st century competencies.
Exactly.
Yeah, because at the end of the day, what we're trying to do here is to ensure that when this child goes into the ever-changing world, they're actually effective learners. So for example, like you were saying, is there any computer skills and things like that? So at this stage in their early years, we're actually preparing them, to be effective learners in the future. So whatever that might come, in the future, any knowledge that they need to know, they're effective learners, and they can just pick up like that because of these key areas that, using the EYFS framework.
They have a positive attitude towards learning. They don't feel like, learning, it's very boring, or it's not.
Correct. That is why the physical, social, emotional element there is very important through playing. Correct. Yeah.
Okay. Is there anything you would like to add to parents to encourage them to have a more open mind towards playing and for the children to learn through play?
Right. Yeah. So, So parents should really start recognizing, and also respect that children has the right to play, and to give them the freedom, to play, because it is through play that they will actually start to realize that through play the kids actually learn. If you actually observe and give the time, the attention, as well as put in the effort for a positive relationship in there. Correct.
I think it's also very important to recognize that the kind of learning that takes place during early years is very different from the kind of learning that we are experiencing in our in our day and age, in our adulthood right now. And the things that happens during that stage is, it looks senseless to adults sometimes, you know, like it looks meaningless, but to them in that stage of life, that is what they need.
Okay.
You know, and I think at the center of your consideration, at the center of your approach, has to be the child's interest, has to be right in the center of it. The center of it shouldn't be your fear, your expectations, or you know, things like that, because that unknowingly, although intention is always good, as parents always have good intention for your children, but if at the center of everything that you're doing, at the heart of it, it's not the child as a person, but it is your fear, it is your expectations, maybe unknowingly you are limiting the child. You could be narrowing their potential, you could be narrowing their ability to flourish. And children, although they come with all the things that they know to play and you know, things like that, they really do need the support of an adult to enhance and put meaning to their play and put value to their play. You know, that is that collaboration.
Okay.
Yeah, really collaborate with your child. Yeah.
Okay, all right. Thank you, Liz. Thank you, Ro, for your
Thank
time.
you.
Thank you for
Thank
listening.
you.